abuse and sex assault on someone with a mental illness. The Sudan is too good for these people.
Scott,
and I'm not sure any other country would take them.
But what about their home country?
I'm not sure they'll take them. Would you take that person back?
How do you know that?
Well, one of them came from Cuba.
No,
I have to say.
How do you know that?
I don't care what we do with them. These are heinous, violent criminals, and they do not need to be here. That's all I know.
What's going on, everybody? You're tuned into Beyond the Headlines, where we cut through the media fog and call things exactly how they are. No fluff, no filter. You know the drill. CNN throws the spin, and we catch it midair, break it down, and lay it out straight for you. So here we are again, another night, another panel meltdown. And this time, it's about 59 people. Yep, 59, not 59 million, not 59,000, just 59 Afrikaner farmers. Trump lets them into the US, and suddenly the entire left-wing media goes into full theatrical outrage mode. Meanwhile, Biden's letting in millions at the southern border without a shred of vetting, but that's apparently fine. Scott Jennings is back at it, holding it down like a calm, logical adult while the rest of the panel practically combusts on camera. Shermichael Singleton's right there with him, probably wondering if he's stuck in some sort of reality show prank. And let's be real, if you just walked in on that CNN segment with no context, you'd probably think Trump personally launched a missile at a refugee camp. That's how dramatic they were being. But here's the thing. It's not about facts for them. It's about narrative. It's always about narrative. Trump could save a bus full of puppies from a burning building, and they'd still find a way to make it sound like a hate crime. This time, they're turning a simple humanitarian gesture into a full-blown controversy. And that's where we come in. We're going to dig into the full segment, break down exactly what was said, how they twisted it, and why it's all just political theater. So buckle up, grab your coffee, or whatever helps you tolerate nonsense, and let's go.
Unsubstantiated. I mean, Scott,
You're saying it's not true that some white farmers have been murdered?
no, it's not true that there is a genocide against white
Okay,
farmers.
whatever you call it, have white farmers been murdered?
Actually, how many
have
white
violence been committed against white farmers?
How many white farmers? Hold on a second. How many white farmers have been murdered in South Africa?
Several. I mean, they asked.
No. How many?
I don't know. Several.
I know why you don't know, because those numbers don't exist broken down by race.
I mean,
how many
I know
black,
this. I wouldn't
how
trust the
many
South
black
African government
farmers,
to tell me. I know that.
How many black
people live in
farmers
South Africa?
have been murdered in South Africa?
Look, you guys are so triggered over 59 people.
No, I'm not.
After we left 20 million people in the country, I don't know why you're so triggered.
Haven't even brought up the people, the white people that Trump picked out because they were white and told them they could come to the country.
How much racial killing are you going to condone?
There are 19,000 people killed on farms in South Africa are black. Where is the concern about them?
The concern is that there are white farmers who have had violence committed against them, and they're being threatened. They're being threatened every single day. There's 59 people,
hold on a second.
and you're triggered about 59 people, and I don't know why.
I haven't mentioned anything about 59
to
people.
substantiate white
Why are
farmers
you
being
only
targeted.
concerned about white people?
I'm only concerned about this story because these 59 people asked for status. They're getting status, and now everybody's freaking out about it.
They didn't ask for anything.
There is no evidence that white people have been targeted. Some white people in the larger issue of farmers, in the larger issue of violence, have been part of this violence, but there is no...
Why are they trying to get out? Why are they, if there's no...
Scott,
why are they trying to leave?
The majority of...
Have you seen the videos of the people saying, kill the white farmers?
Afrikaners do not want to leave.
What do you think the phrase, kill the white farmers means?
Yeah, that's a phrase that the ANC, that was a phrase that, was against the anti-apartheid movement. But the ANC, who's ruling the government, the president's government, has disavowed that phrase, has disavowed it in any songs, and there's no evidence that white people are being targeted. And the majority of Afrikaners do not want to leave.
They're not a part of the government, Scott. You're taking a fringe movement and you're trying to make it a characteristic.
It is the height of racism.
It
is the height of racism to say
reason?
that white people have to be exempted from all violence in any society, and that is what is being said here. If we cannot say, there is no white genocide happening, there is no farm genocide happening, and the argument is some white people have been killed, even though 27,000 murders happened in that country. What are we saying? If anybody of one racial group is murdered, then that that constitutes a refugee status for that particular group.
When the president
that is-
has
it's the height of
has
racism.
also ended the refugee program
Yes,
for all other people
with
in
melanin.
actual war,
Again,
there is
in
no-
actual
Triggered over
wartime.
59
we're not.
people. I don't
I'm not
understand.
triggered.
You
I'm
want
just-
them to
let's-
stay, and
let's-
I guess you want them to have violence committed
Ashley,
against them.
go
Does
ahead.
that make you happy?
Go ahead and comment,
I
and then I'll let
think
Sherman
violence
go.
against all people is wrong,
I agree with you.
including the white
totally agree
farmers,
with
but
you.
also including the black people that live in Africa. There are 1.5 billion people that live in the continent of
I don't like
Africa.
violence of any kind.
There are 1.5 billion people that live in Africa.
Okay.
There are 63 million people that live in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
There were 59 people that were extracted out of a continent of 1.5 billion people and brought to our country. And what color were those people? White.
So?
And where were there other places where genocide is happening in the continent where 1.5
Why are you
billion?
against it?
I'm not
Why are you
against
against
it.
it?
I'm not against it.
But
I
you
want to
appear
know.
to be. Look at you,
No,
you're so
no.
triggered.
I want you to have a
59
complete.
people.
No, I
59.
want you to have. I can have a complete thought. I want you to have a complete thought.
My thought
you were okay.
These people are under threat, and
Well,
now
are
they're coming here, and you're
can
enraged
you say,
that they're not
can
still
you
under
say
threat.
can you say that in addition to the 7 potential white farmers that were murdered, the 18,082,000 black folks that were murdered in the country, that's a problem too?
Yes, all violence is a problem.
Yes,
then why
and
is
maybe
this-
But the
perhaps they should
government's
have
policies are targeting these particular people with
Wait,
land
how-
confiscation,
actually,
and they're being
that's
targeted
incorrect.
with violence.
Hold on,
incorrect.
There
Scott,
have been
how
no
so?
farms
How
taken
so?
from any white people yet.
Yeah, how
But
so?
the laws, do the laws not
There is
allow
a
it?
law, but it hasn't been.
There is a law, but
No, but
they're
it hasn't-
being targeted.
Kinda like the
People,
Constitution.
people
Hold on,
are
guys. Hold on,
attacking
guys.
them.
I think that
they're
this.
threatening them.
Hold on. A lot is being said right now, including many things that are not true.
What's not true?
So the land. Let's talk about the land for a second.
It is- it's the law.
Scott, just 1 second. Let's talk about the land.
the law.
The land.
So let me lay this out plainly, because there's so much noise, it's easy to lose sight of the actual issue here. Donald Trump made the decision to welcome 59 Afrikaners, white South African farmers, into the United States. Why? Because they're facing real, violent persecution in their home country. We're talking about people being threatened, assaulted, and in far too many cases, murdered, and not because of anything they've done, but because of the color of their skin and the land they own. That's the truth. And yet somehow, CNN, with their panel of deeply concerned moralizers, didn't think that was worth focusing on. No, they zeroed in on one word: genocide. That's it. Trump dared to call it what it arguably is, and they acted like he committed a crime against language. They ignored the bodies, ignored the violence, ignored the statistics, all so they could nitpick his choice of phrasing. That's not journalism, that's political theater. Now, if you're wondering why that word matters so much to them, it's simple. If Trump's right, if what's happening really is genocide, then that justifies his decision. And they can't have that. They can't admit that the man they've spent years painting as a villain is actually doing something humane and morally justifiable. So they twist themselves into knots, dissecting his every syllable while ignoring the blood on the ground in South Africa. Yeah, and I've got to give Scott Jennings credit. The man kept his composure in a room full of people who seemed more offended by Trump's adjectives than by human suffering. Personally, I don't think I'd have the patience. If I were in that studio, I'd look around and ask, are we seriously debating this? Like, this is the moment CNN decides to take a stand. Not when millions of illegal immigrants pour in unvetted, not when violent crime spikes, not when fentanyl overdoses skyrocket. No, this is their line in the sand. Trump said the G word. Now here's something they didn't mention. Not once. White farmers in South Africa make up just 0.66% of the population, less than 1%. And yet they're being killed at a rate that's 15 times higher than average. That's not random. That's not unfortunate. That's targeted. That's racial violence. And if the victims were of any other race or background, CNN would run back-to-back specials with somber music and a breaking news banner. But since these victims don't fit the preferred narrative, suddenly it's not a big deal. Suddenly it's just context and history. But stick around. Sure, Michael's about to jump in with a thoughtful take that brings even more clarity to this situation. All right, back to it.
This is a lot to just listen to. In 1975, you had the Apartheid Expropriation Act that pertained to land. This new bill that was passed last November, I believe, the president signed it into law January 25th of this year. It was sort of a reformation, a reforming of the 75 Act. And essentially what this act was attempting to do was to correct the apartheid leanings of that bill, which did allow the government at the time to take land away from blacks. I looked this up. I read about it because I was really curious about where this was going to go. Now, the president, from what I did read in South Africa, some of the local news there, is actually finding himself in a lot of trouble with some of the more hard-lining South African political alliances there because they want the president to take a harder stance to almost in a retribution, if you will, to take the land away from the white South Africans. And the president has said, I'm not going to do that, which I appreciate the president. And he sort of made that clear tonight. Even President Trump said, you may not be doing it, but there are cases of individuals who have killed some South African white farmers and they have taken the land. That is true. And the president did sort of clarify that. I will say, though, the South African president, I think, went to the White House today with a goal in mind. President Trump said, I want you to leave BRICS. South African president appeared to be wanting to discuss some of those trade negotiations to not be so reliant on China. So for me, I get why this is a big issue for a lot of people. But I think as it pertains to the United States, if we can have bilateral trade with South Africa that weakens China's global position, that to me is way more of an impactful thing than what we're talking about domestically here in the U.S.
It is important, but it is.
Chief, Trump chose a particularly interesting issue because these are violent criminals, and he'll keep saying, yes, these are violent criminals. Who cares where they go? And a lot of people might say, yeah, who cares? They're violent criminals. But like you said, they're pressing the boundaries of the power of the executive branch, and they're doing it in a very politically smart way.
Why do you think, Michael, that they're sending them to Sudan? Why not just send them to their countries of origin?
They're attempting to have a deterrence, to showcase to people you cannot continue to come to the United States. One, it's a national security problem. We have no idea who some of these people are. And two, it is a legit.
We know who these people are. I mean,
we don't know 20 million, however many of these people
I'm talking
here
about
illegally.
the ones that they're sending to Sudan.
Okay, but my point is, broadly speaking, for the most part, we have no idea who the people are who are coming into our country illegally. Number two, it is an excessive strain on all resources across the board. Healthcare, crime, school, education, healthcare. We don't have, I keep saying this, I don't know why Democrats don't understand this. We don't have unlimited resources
my question was, why
to
are
not, as a deterrence, to make it clear, if you come into the country, you will get sent somewhere you do not want to go.
So the idea here is that we are going to deter people by saying, you committed a crime here, maybe they did, and we're going to send you.
They did. They came. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
We're going to send you to a country where we're saying there's a civil war happening. There's a genocide occurring there. We don't know what's going to happen to them. Why not send them back to their countries of origin, which is what we do with everybody else?
We don't know what's going to happen to them there either.
I think that's exactly
and they
the
have
point.
broken the law, Abby. When you come into the country, you've committed a felony. And number two, you have to deter this behavior from continuing to happen because it has become a problem for this country.
So the deterrence is, like El Salvador, we'll send them to places where they might face imminent death.
Absolutely. And because that sends a message. If you come to the United States and break our laws, violate our immigration laws, it will have severe consequences.
So for unspecified crimes, we don't know exactly what all these people were convicted of. Maybe they were convicted. Hold on a second.
Can I read it?
They were convicted. Maybe they were convicted of very serious crimes.
I'll read it.
The penalty that the Trump administration says is appropriate potentially could be death.
I mean,
right?
I'll read it. Sex offenders, homicide, kidnapping, murder in the first degree, battery, larceny, cocaine possession, murder, robbery, DUI, child sex abuse, and sex assault on someone with a mental illness. The Sudan is too good for these people. And I'm not sure any other country would take them.
But what about their home country?
I'm not sure they'll take them. Would you take that person back?
How do you know that?
Well, one of them came from Cuba.
No.
I have to say.
How do you know that?
I don't care what we do with them. These are heinous, violent criminals, and they do not need to be here.
Facts don't seem to matter to the narrative gang over at CNN, not even a little. You could drop hard data in front of them, play surveillance footage, read out crime reports, and they'd still find a way to pivot back to their script. There was literally a point I cut from this video, because honestly, it was just getting embarrassing, where they started talking about Trump's tie. Yes, his tie. In a segment that involved people being butchered for the color of their skin, CNN thought the breaking story was Trump's wardrobe. They implied that his tie might have represented something dark. That's how desperate it's gotten. If I pitched this nonsense as a mockumentary, you'd tell me it's too unrealistic. You'd say, come on, nobody's that shallow. But apparently they are. You've got people being hunted on one continent, others being deported for violent crimes here, and CNN wants to talk about color coordination. This isn't journalism, it's clown theater. And I'm not going to insult your intelligence by over-explaining why none of this is remotely about race, because it isn't. But the real issue here is how badly these people have diluted the word racist. It used to mean something. It used to stop people in their tracks. Now, it's a political tool. It's a throwaway insult tossed at anyone who disagrees. CNN has taken a word that once had power, and they've overused it, misused it, and abused it to the point of meaninglessness. And they don't care, because for them, truth is optional. Optics are everything. Now, let's get to the part that really shows how upside down this all is. CNN is losing its mind because Trump floated the idea of deporting violent criminal illegal immigrants. not just deporting them, but sending them to places like Sudan. And what do they say? They say it's cruel. Not what these criminals did, not the child abuse, the murder, the rape. No, the deportation is the issue. We're talking about individuals who have been convicted of some of the most vile crimes imaginable. People who were here illegally and caused irreversible harm. And CNN's panel, they're more concerned about where these people might end up than what they did to end up on that list. It's surreal. And I get it. People want to sound compassionate. But there's a difference between compassion and madness. These aren't people caught shoplifting gum. We're talking about sex offenders, murderers, people who assaulted children. Let me ask you, would you want them living down the street from you? When someone said Sudan is too good for them, I didn't hear cruelty. I heard reality. These are not people who should be walking free in any civilized nation. And no, their country of origin probably doesn't want them back either. Cuba, El Salvador. You think they're eager to receive a package labeled violent felon from America? Of course not. But here comes CNN arguing that sending them to Sudan, a place in crisis, is somehow the bigger injustice. Never mind the actual victims, never mind the crime. The only cruelty they can see is in the travel itinerary. Meanwhile, millions of Americans are wondering why we even have laws if we won't enforce them. And here's the kicker. CNN framed Trump's refugee decision as racist. Because of course they did. If Trump ties his shoes the wrong way, it's racist. If he deports criminals, it's racist. If he breathes, it's probably racist. At this point, their outrage is a reflex, not a reasoned argument. And they wonder why people don't take them seriously anymore. They wonder why trust in the media is in free fall. Here's why. When you scream racism at everything, eventually people stop listening. When you ignore real victims and prop up offenders in the name of political correctness, people tune you out. Because regular Americans still believe in common sense, and what CNN is selling ain't that. And I haven't even gotten to the bigger hypocrisy here. Illegal immigrants breaking laws and CNN defending them more aggressively than they ever defend American citizens who are impacted by those crimes. You won't hear them talk about the victims. You won't hear their names. You'll only hear sob stories about the poor criminal who might be sent to a war-torn country. Like he didn't break multiple laws to get here in the first place. This is the same network that will spend an entire segment analyzing Trump's hair, but will gloss over violent assault charges like it's a parking ticket. And then, in the same breath, they'll accuse Trump of undermining democracy. You can't make this stuff up. So what do you think? Am I off here? Do you actually believe CNN had a point? Or are they just spinning anything they can into another anti-Trump headline? And more importantly, do you think the average American is falling for this? Because I don't. I think most people, regardless of politics, see the insanity for what it is. Let me know what you think in the comments. I read through them and I genuinely want to hear different perspectives. Do you agree with me that this entire discussion was a train wreck? Or do you see something I don't? And hey, if you appreciate what I'm doing, if you're tired of the noise and want real breakdowns with a little edge and a lot of truth, hit that like button. Subscribe. Share it with someone who's as fed up with the nonsense as you are. Also, I'm posting more over on X. You'll find my handle somewhere on screen. Come say hi, join the convo. Let's keep this going. The more we call out this ridiculousness, the less power it has. As always, thank you for spending part of your day with me. Whether you agree or disagree, the fact that you're here means you care. And that matters more than anything. Never forget, Jesus loves you. I'll see you in the next one.